According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe. Some say it's a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can see, is a fraction, a tiny fraction, of the 0.005%. So humans, compared with what exists even in this universe, are basically blind. We don't live in a world, we live in a band of frequency. Actually, we live in an information source if you go deeper. And then you look at according to mainstream science's projection of the size of the universe, compared with that, planet Earth is the equivalent of 1/1000th of a pinhead. Now, the postage stamp program is so all-pervading, and the suppression of information, like I've just said, in the mainstream is all-pervading, that people laugh at the fact that this world could be manipulated by a non-human force when they can see a tiny fraction of 0.005% on a planet equivalent to a billionth size of a pinhead. And see, the key to keeping people in perceptual servitude is to suppress the nature of reality itself. Because if people realize what I've just said, they are far more likely to say, well, hold on a minute then. If we can't see almost anything, then what else exists? Well, hold on a second. Look at the diversity of form in the human form, never mind the animal world and the insect world, that's operating within that tiny band of frequency. What the heck exists in terms of diversity of form beyond that, which is in the almost entirety of existence that we can't see? And when you come from that perspective, then non-human entities, that many taking a reptilian form, becomes far less fantastic than if you're coming from postage stamp consensus, which is waving it away by reflex action, load of rubbish. And, you know, I've not sat in a darkened room pulling this out of the ether. I've researched all over the world. And when you have ancient cultures all over the world who are describing non-human entities in the unseen, which is almost what isn't unseen to the humans in the way that I've just described, many taking a reptilian form. And that has passed through the ages. And then you meet people in places like America, because once you start talking about this, you become someone that people will give information to, because they can see a way of getting out into the public arena, because you won't think they're crazy. And they're telling you the same. You know, people who've been in mind control projects, people who've been in government projects, who've interacted with these entities in underground bases. And they're describing what the ancients described. When you've got this man who's unfortunately just died in his 90s, William Tompkins, writing a book in 2015, describing how he was seconded in 1942 into a top secret naval intelligence operation in America based at the naval base at San Diego, where his role, or the role of that organization, was to interact with non-human entities. And he produces documents, he produces pictures of people he was with to support what he claims. And he's saying world governments are controlled by a reptilian non-human race. I've been saying that since the 90s.
Who are these people? Royal family, reptiles. Trump?
Well, let's look at how it works. First of all, these entities operate in the unseen, overwhelmingly in the unseen. Because we, like I said earlier, live in a frequency band, a band of frequency. Anything beyond that frequency we can't see, we're not aware of. And, you know, people have no trouble accepting that the old analog system of radio and television stations are different frequencies sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're really close on the dial. You know, the analog system, BBC One and ITV and CNN, they're sharing the same space, but they're just on different frequencies. And the television picks up different frequencies as you change the channel. Well, in the same way, worlds or realities, it's a better term, are sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're very close on the dial. And at that point where they're close on the dial and there is some form of interaction, that's what we call ghosts and paranormal activity. And so these, not just reptilian, but other non-human entities are operating just outside of the human sight. And they have to have vehicles within our frequency band, within our world, that represent their interests, that are basically vehicles for them to manipulate our society. And so particular bloodlines were created that are hybrids, part reptilian, not always reptilian, but part reptilian, part human, which is the origin of the royal aristocratic bloodline whole order of the ages. You know, the ancient Chinese emperors used to claim the right to be emperor because of their descendants from the serpent gods. And the reason that these royal bloodlines and aristocratic bloodlines have incessantly, obsessively interbred is because they're holding this hybrid genetic program. And for a long time, they ruled because they were the special bloodline. What is it? Just down the road from us now in London, we have a head of state, even today, who is head of state because of her bloodline.
The Queen.
The Queen. If she was a different bloodline, she might be cleaning the throne, not sitting on it. This is the nonsense of it. Why are you queen? Because someone had sex with someone and that person was born first, therefore they're the monarch. Sorry, I thought we lived in a civilized society with some form of intelligence. What's going on? But across much of the world, as humanity started to awaken a bit more from its civility to these royal bloodlines, they couldn't sustain it any longer. And so the royal in-your-face control started to disperse. It's still around in some areas, like we still have a monarchy in here and the Commonwealth countries, but in lots of countries it disappeared. But these bloodlines didn't. And their sense of being special and being, quote, royal never ended either. And so they moved into the dark suit professions of banking, of politics, of all the dark suit professions, government administration, etc. And they've gone on running the show ever since, while not being overtly royal. And of course, what happened with the so-called Great British Empire, or these other European empires, is these bloodlines went all over the world, and they imposed themselves in the North America, in South America, in Australia, all over the world. And they've gone on controlling ever since. But when you look at the situation from just a general population perspective, everything seems to be unconnected. People seem to be unconnected. But when you go deep into the shadows, they're not unconnected. What you have is a structure, a global structure, which is like a spider's web. A very good way of describing it. At the center is the spider. That's this reptilian and other non-human force, which is operating in the unseen. The strands immediately around the spider are the most exclusive secret societies.
Such as?
Well, you won't even be able to name them. Some of them don't even have names, so they're harder to establish. They're really exclusive groupings of people who are close enough to the spider to know the big picture. You come out from them, they're people you'll never see in the public arena. You come out from them, and then you start hitting secret societies that we do know of. And when I say the Freemasons, Knights of Malta, Knights Templar, the inner circle of the Jesuit order, Opus Dei, etc., I'm not talking about everybody who's a Freemason. Nothing like. These structures, not these secret societies, are fiercely compartmentalized. You're looking at the inner core of these organizations, not most of its membership, who are clueless about what that organization is really about. But the people within these secret societies who are kept in the dark are a wonderful front, unknowing front, which these others can hide behind. So you keep coming out from the spider, and eventually you hit what I call the cusp organizations, where the hidden meets the seen. So here you will find the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations in America, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, which was created to manipulate the environment to justify global transformation, and organizations like that. And then you come into the scene, and you're into governments, you're into the banking system, you're into corporations, you're into media ownership, etc. And to the public looking on, the decisions that impact upon the world and impact upon their lives are being made in the world of the seen, being made by politicians, they're being made by bankers and what have you. But ultimately, the plan for the total subjugation of humankind is coming from the spider, and it's playing out through this structure.
Can I ask, why do they want to do this, the manipulators? Why not get rid of us? Why keep us around? Why keep stringing us along? We must have some value to them if that's what they're doing.
Well, yes, we do. And I can sum it up in a scene from The Matrix. When
is that movie made by them, or was that alternative media, or is it hard to tell?
It's hard to tell.
Because they're throwing us a bone every now and then.
Yeah.
So we can feel like we know what's going on.
Well, yeah, and also, you know, just a quick aside, the world they want to take us into, and we are going into, unless we wake up, is so fantastically different from the world we've known that they have a big problem with that chasm. So I'm not saying this is about the Matrix, possibly, but I'm not saying it for sure, but I am saying it for sure about this stream of movies, year after year after year after year, that are portraying the very dystopian machine-controlled society that they want to take us into. Because it's called preemptive programming. What they're doing is systematically making us subconsciously, consciously too more and more, but subconsciously familiar with that world. So that as it comes in for real, it's less of a chasm, it's less of a shock, because we're being prepared for it. Because it's all a mind game, it's all a perception game. The whole thing is a perception game. So what Morpheus did in the Matrix movie is he held up a battery and he said, basically, the machines have turned human into one of these, which is an energy source. And you remember the scenes in the Matrix of the babies and having their energy trawled? If you look at common themes of ancient cultures and of people I've spoken to on the inside of the system, particularly in America, there is a common theme that these entities feed off human low vibrational energy. Because of a perceptual state is a frequency. If I'm in a state of depression, then I'm in a frequency. Depression is a frequency. Joy is a frequency in our reality. And if you're going to absorb energy as a source of energetic sustenance, then that energy has to be within the frequency band you operate on. And these non-human entities that on manipulating human society by the very nature of who they are, how they act. I mean, the human word psychopath and psychopathic just encapsulates them. If you look at the so-called hair test of psychopathic traits, including no empathy and at the top, where people have no fail-safe mechanism of behavior because they have no emotional consequence, because they have no empathy, therefore anything goes. Things that we couldn't do because emotionally, empathetically, we couldn't do it to people, they have no problem because they are empathy deleted. So they're in a low-frequency state. And therefore, if they're going to use humans as an energetic source, human emotion has to be in a low vibrational state. So they've set up a human society to generate maximum fear, low vibrational state, anxiety, depression, conflict, and all these low vibrational emotional states, fear of the future, regret of the past, resentment, all these low vibrational states, and they feed off them. They feed off them, just like Morpheus was talking about. They've turned humans into one of these. So we are an energy source to them. This force does not want humanity to empower itself. It wants humanity in a state of bewildered, confused, chaotic subservience. This is why the true nature of reality is so systematically suppressed, because once we remember, it's over. It's over. Therefore, the force which wants to enslave us for its own purposes has to keep us in ignorance of true self, because without that, it's got no power over us. It's a classic example of, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. This force is the one-eyed man. To control humanity, it has to keep us in a state of blindness. When we become the two-eyed, third-eyed consciousness that we are, it's over. That's why the control and the nature of our true self are connected, because one must stop us remembering that. This is what religion's about. Religion says you're little me, and big me is out there. And by the way, me with me collar and me hat and me frock, I know what big me wants. Therefore, listen to me, do what I say, and then you'll be fine. And if you look at religions, it's a program. It's a software program, I would describe it as. You say to a Muslim person, you're a Muslim, what does that mean? Oh, well, I go to the mosque and a man tells me what God wants me to do. Okay. And what will happen if I don't do what he says? And you? Well, I'm a Christian. What does that mean? Well, I go to the church and a man tells me what God wants and what will happen if I don't. You? Oh, I'm Jewish. What does that mean? Well, I go to the synagogue and this man tells me what God wants and what will happen if I don't. It's a program. It's pseudo-randomness. I see this all across the world. Pseudo-randomness. I also call them opposames. These are things with different labels that if you break them down, they all operate the same way. And religions are like that. They are a program. They have their same modus operandi. And it is you, little me. You subordinate to big me, and you are a blasphemer if you could dare suggest that you are an expression of big me. This is how it works. If you break it all down, it's all about holding us in a narrow, limited, little me state of self-perception, and it's being done systematically. I say we live in a cosmic internet, which is basically mirrored by the internet that we know. How does that work? You have, say, Wi-Fi fields of information. And that Wi-Fi field represents the World Wide Web, which is a collective reality. You can access the same global reality in Australia and America and Britain and France and South Africa as everybody else. so long as you have access to this World Wide Web global reality. But when you look at the information in Wi-Fi fields, it doesn't. Well, we can't even see them. I mean, if there's Wi-Fi in this studio, where is it? And if computers didn't exist and people didn't know about computers, and I said, do you know, in this room, in the unseen, there is a whole worldwide collective reality. And if you log into it, you can log into it anywhere in the world and you can go into this collective reality. People go, you're mad. I can't see it. What do the five senses say? Postage stamp consensus. Can I see it, touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it? Oh, it exists then. I can't? Doesn't exist then. But because people know about computers, if I describe that, they go, oh yeah, Wi-Fi, I know about that, yeah, Wi-Fi. It's just a matter of knowledge. That's all it is. The more we know, the more we understand. And things that we go, oh, that's mad, become perfectly logical with knowledge, with understanding. This is why control of knowledge is so important. So what the computers does is it takes information in that Wi-Fi form and it puts it on the screen in the form that we call the internet. Pictures and graphics and videos and all this stuff. But the only place the internet exists in that form is on the screen. Everywhere else, it's information in other forms. Now, what I'm saying is in the book is that that is technologically mirroring the very reality that we're experiencing.
So we can tap into our cosmic internet if we can get on the right frequency.
Yeah. Well, we tap into the cosmic internet, whatever frequency we're on. That's the point. The frequency we're on dictates what part or information we are connecting with within this cosmic internet Wi-Fi. Because, again, let's come back to perception. When people go on the internet, they have a vast worldwide choice of websites, of subjects, of everything you can even imagine. What makes them choose to go to this website or that website is their perception. Their perception of what they like, what they believe, what they don't believe, dictates where they go. In the same way, but in a slightly different process, I'm saying that that's actually what we're doing all the time. Because this cosmic internet is like a quantum field of possibility and probability waiting to manifest. And we are interacting with it. But the scale at which we're interacting with it and the frequency at which we're interacting with it is dictated by our perception. So if we have a perception of Ethel on the checkout or Bill driving the bus, and that's not just an experience, that's who you are, then your perception of self means you're going to operate on a very narrow band of frequency as you interact with this cosmic internet. And basically, life's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what it does... It's
confirmation bias.
I would go further and say it's actually a feedback loop.
Okay. A
feedback loop for this reason. And again, you know, you can see why people think you're crazy if without the background information about reality itself.